Hey Joe, go hit on that girl. Go pick up that blonde beauty with your high school level French. Just go, hurry up. At a hotel lobby where our high school reunion was being held, I saw a beautiful blonde woman, my classmate, who looked down on me for only having a high school education, ordered me to approach her. No matter how much I refused, he kept forcefully pushing me to do it. He seemed to want to laugh at my discomfort. But he didn't know. Fine, but that girl is my secretary. That she wasn't a stranger. And what I am doing now. I am Joe. I grew up in a single-parent household with my younger brother. Though we grew up together, it wasn't really the case during our early childhood. My brother, Mike, wasn't very physically strong and had repeated hospital stays since he was young, so our mother was always occupied with him, leaving me alone many nights. I was scared and lonely during those nights alone. But I could never say that to my mother, who was working desperately while caring for my sick brother. Besides, I could bear it a little, thinking it was all to help my brother. Nevertheless, being alone at home with nothing to do, I started to want to lighten my mother's burden and naturally began to help with household chores. At first, I was just copying what I saw, so I ended up adding too much detergent to the washing machine and troubling my mother, and my folding of laundry was terribly done. I once scorched a shirt trying to iron it. There was also a time when I tried to make pancakes and ended up spilling the batter in the sink, leaving it covered in flour. I once clogged the vacuum cleaner and waited in tears for my mother to come home. Eventually, I even cut my finger with a knife and wrapped it in bandages to get through the situation. When my mother came home, she was so pale and rushed me to the hospital. Looking back, she must have been terrified. And now, I think, what on earth was I doing? But despite all that, my mother never really got angry with me. She empathized with my loneliness and said, "You were trying to help, weren't you? Thank you, but please, no more dangerous stuff. Just knowing you care is enough for me," as she stroked my head. Of course, I wasn't allowed to touch knives or irons anymore, and I could only use things she taught me. But as I gradually learned to do more chores, I felt like I was really helping her, and that made me very happy. My dad left us right after my brother was born, running off with another woman he had an affair with. I used to think he was a doting father and I liked him, but after seeing him betray and leave my mother, I've always disliked him. My mother worked tirelessly, not just at her job, but also taking care of my brother and still keeping an eye on me. I can only imagine how busy and difficult it was for her. Though we got child support from my father, because of my brother's medical expenses, life was pretty tough. I wanted to do my best for my family. With that determination, I kept adding to the chores I could handle. This was around the time I became a middle schooler. I ended up in the same class as a student named Steve. Steve was the center of our class, the kind of popular guy who's always surrounded by people, regardless of gender, with friends among upper and lower classmates. "Hey, anyone up for cinema today? There's a new place near the station. I heard the staff is pretty." Once he suggests it, my classmates say, "Sounds good, let's go." Why not invite the whole class? Right, everyone. Everyone, let's meet at the cinema near the station after school. Before I know it, there's already a plan for the whole class to go to cinema. I got past exam papers from a senior. Seriously, way to go, Steve. Typical Steve. Having lots of connections sure is handy. Thanks, Steve. With these, we can avoid failing. Hey, how about we all study together afterwards? Oh, then come to my place. I've got a new video game. We can take a break and I'll show it to you. Wow, I want to go. Steve, who somehow got his hands on past exam papers, is revered like a god and proudly shows official. He's always surrounded by people and loves to have a wild time. I find it a bit hard to get along with him, who's the complete opposite of me. You should come too. No, I don't have money for cinema. What? It's just cinema. You get an allowance, right? Sorry, I really can afford it. At first, I was also invited. But since my family didn't have much money, I never accepted the invitations, and eventually, he stopped inviting me. Honestly, I found Steve hard to deal with, so I didn't really care. However, it seems Steve didn't like being turned down by me. Hey, isn't that guy just all about studying and acting like he's better than us, like a school committee nerd, acting all introverted despite himself? Yeah, I get it. He always turns down your invitations, acting all high and mighty. To us outgoing folks, that's just weird. Anyway, Steve, forget that loner. Let's go out somewhere today. Sounds good, let's do that. Before I knew it, I was labeled as an introvert and became an outcast. But it wasn't just me, there were several others as well. Apparently, there were quite a few classmates who couldn't keep up with the vibe and energy, and all of them were inevitably labeled as introverts. Soon, our class seemed to be split into extroverts and introverts. Ironically, despite hoping classes would change as we moved up grades, Steve and I ended up in the same class for all 3 years. By the time we reached 9th grade, we had to take the lead in all school events, guiding the younger students. Steve, who loved festivals and events, was thrilled that he could finally be the center of attention and organize things in his final year. Everyone, what should we do for the school festival? We can do food and drink like high schoolers, so why not just stick with a safe exhibition again this year? No way, we have a stage, so we should do something that stands out. How about a play? It'll be fun and definitely liven things up. Steve starts the discussion enthusiastically, but listening to him, it just seems like he wants to stand out and make noise, which is kind of depressing. If we do a play, it'll take a lot of time on the day, and rehearsing will be tough. Maybe an exhibition would be better. Someone in the class timidly suggests this, but Steve retorts, "What? We were just getting into the idea of a play. You got a problem with that?" "No, not really." "Well, it's fine. If you can't keep up, you're just in the way. Let's just have fun with those who can enjoy it." Steve's idea of a play isn't about a story, but more like imitating a TV comedy show, making fun of someone. It's obviously going to be a poor imitation and not particularly funny, and resorting to inside jokes when it doesn't get laughs will only make the atmosphere heavier. Initially, classmates who agreed with Steve's plan gradually started saying, yeah, sounds fun, I guess. It'll be exciting, right? It'll definitely be exciting. But it seemed too late to back out now, as they were slightly hesitant and Steve was on a roll, leaving everyone sweating nervously. Then, a voice called out, "Steve." "What's up, Mr. Anderson? That play of yours, I don't find it particularly interesting. What part do you think is funny?" What are you talking about?" Mr. Anderson, our class teacher, said, looking around. "It seems like hardly anyone is really on board with this play. Are you aware of that?" Having fun is important, of course, but this festival isn't just for you. It's something we all create together. It has to be something everyone agrees on and enjoys. Thinking only about your own fun lacks consideration for others. A true leader is someone who can take everyone's opinions into account, he advised the irritated Steve. "What's with the sermon? Cut it out." Initially, Steve was defiant, but it seemed to shock him that no one supported him at that moment. "Freaking unbelievable. Fine, you guys do some boring exhibition then. I'm not participating." He snapped back and stormed out of the classroom. Some students worriedly followed him, but I was moved by Mr. Anderson's words. In the end, Steve didn't become the leader. As a class representative, I took the helm, listened to everyone's opinions, and we settled on a safe exhibition, which turned out to be a great success. Then came the morning of the high school entrance exams. "What, Mike is?" "Yes, I'll be there right away." Hearing my mother on the phone, her voice filled with panic, I heard that Mike's condition had suddenly worsened. She told me to go on with my exam, but I couldn't focus and ended up forfeiting. I rushed to the hospital and waited for hours outside the surgery room. Mike, thanks to the doctor's efforts, managed to pull through. However, since I only applied to one public high school, I had no other options left. Steve, learning about this, later found me and laughed mockingly. A straight-A student like you taking a gap year before high school. Huh, that's just perfect. You should have gone to the exam instead of the hospital. You couldn't do anything there anyway. That's just stupid. Man, you're hilarious. Haha. Hearing this, all the feelings I had bottled up inside me just exploded. Is it fun for you? Huh? I'm asking if you enjoy continually mocking others. Enough with looking down on people. In a sudden impulse, I grabbed Steve, ready to strike him in a mix of shock and anger. But at the last moment, Mr. Anderson stopped me and took me to another room. You're kidding me. You won't get away with this. Steve's shouts lingered for a while. Mr. Anderson quietly listened to my story. He empathized with my past struggles and even shed tears. It must have been hard. You felt lonely, didn't you? Seeing his tears, I felt a slight relief in my heart. Did I make a mistake? Mike's well-being was more important than the exam. When I heard his condition worsened, I just couldn't stay put. The exam seemed so trivial, but still. You don't regret it, but you feel resolved, don't you? I nodded, and Mr. Anderson smiled kindly at me. It's normal to feel that way, but prioritizing Mike over the exam wasn't a mistake. Probably, if you had chosen the exam, your worry for Mike would have prevented you from performing your best. Mr. Anderson, remember, you can always reach out to me when times are tough. I'm on your side. It's going to be all right. Saying that, he gave me his address and phone number. I wasn't in a family situation where I could ask for a cell phone, so my communication with Mr. Anderson naturally became through letters. I made it a point to always write to Mr. Anderson whenever something happened, ensuring I never neglected our correspondence. Mr. Anderson also sent back thoughtful responses every time. Not only that, but he never failed to send Christmas cards and midsummer greetings as well. Fast forward 15 years since I graduated from middle school. An invitation to a class reunion arrived. A reunion for our 9th grade class. Looking at the invitation, I didn't feel much excitement. However, the line Mr. Anderson, our former teacher, is also expected to attend made me decide to go. On the day, the reunion took place in the banquet hall of a hotel. Joe, long time no see. Hey, it's Joe, the class representative. Been a while, hasn't it? Yeah, long time. How's everyone been? Aw, you look great too, Joe. Talking with my classmates turned out to be more enjoyable than I expected. Everyone remembered me as a class representative from back then, and we had a great time reminiscing about those days. As we shared our recent life updates and chatted, I noticed one particular group seemed exceptionally lively. Over there, they're having quite the time. Jay, that's Steve's group. Ah, I see. It seemed Steve was the center of that group. Even from a distance, the snippets of conversation I heard suggested they were still as childish and rowdy as in middle school. I thought about avoiding them, but then accidentally made eye contact with Steve. As he approached with a smirk, I suppressed my urge to flee and faced him. Hey, is that you, Joe? Yeah, it is. I knew it. It's Joe, the high school dropout. What's with the suit? Doesn't suit you at all. Looks like you're playing dress-up, which is kind of funny. You should stick to more low-end attire. It suits you better. Irritated by his immediate rudeness, I replied, Unfortunately, I have work after this. Then he said, What, you, a high school dropout, working in a suit? Haha, don't put on airs. What kind of workaholic are you? Working for some evil company. Oh, manual typical for a dropout. Only able to get picked up by those kinds of firms. Me. I'm a stockbroker. Something to brag about to everyone, and it's the best. Every word from Steve was unpleasant, and I said, Oh, that's great. Well, I have to go, and left the scene as if fleeing. But he called out, Wait up. What's it like working as a dropout? Tell me in detail. I'll use it for future reference. Come on, Joe, please. Are you mad because I mentioned the dropout thing? I'm sorry. Okay, let's talk. We're pals, right? It's a reunion after all. Don't try to run away. That's bold of you. But wait, I'm forgiving. So I let it slide. Come on, let's have a drink and not run away anymore. Throughout the reunion, Steve kept appearing out of nowhere to bother me wherever I went. Please, just stop. Even when I asked him to stop, he just grinned and kept following me. As the reunion was nearing its end, I was concerned that Mr. Anderson hadn't shown up yet. Was he running late? Had something happened? Deciding to head to the bathroom, I stepped outside the venue, only to have Steve follow me again. What's up? Leaving already? No, just going to the bathroom. To the bathroom? All right, I'll come with you. Sigh. As I was reluctantly heading to the bathroom, thinking how truly annoying this was getting, I noticed a blonde woman sitting on a sofa in the lobby. Wow, a blonde beauty. Maybe she's a guest staying here. She's seriously gorgeous. Steve, getting excited all by himself, then turned to me and said, "Hey Joe, you go hit on her." What? Why? Come on, man. Try picking up that blonde beauty with your high school level French. Steve approached me with a smirk, his phone gripped in his hand. It was clear he intended to film me awkwardly speaking to the woman in broken French, getting swiftly rejected, and then share it to mock me with everyone. Shocked and disgusted by his unchanged behavior since middle school, I felt too appalled to say anything. Sorry, but that's impossible. As I tried to walk past him to the bathroom, Steve grabbed my arm with all his strength and urged, "Come on, just do it. Hurry up." Sighing, I asked Steve to let go of my arm and said, "Fine, but that woman is actually my secretary." He responded in disbelief. What? What are you talking about? Have you lost your mind? Then, the woman seemed to notice us and gracefully walked over. Steve tensed up immediately and pushed me again, saying, "Come on, stop talking nonsense and go talk to her." "Mr. Parker, you're earlier than expected. Are you done already?" she asked me. Steve was taken aback by her question to me. "It might take a little longer. The teacher I wanted to meet hasn't arrived yet. Ellie, are you still okay with time? Not getting bored?" "Yes, I'm fine. I just came early. I'll wait while having some coffee." "Thanks, that's a relief." Wait. Joe, what's going on here? You actually know this beautiful woman?" I told you so." "No way, I didn't hear that." "Well, I did say it just a moment ago." Steve looked back and forth between us in confusion. Ellie, my secretary, also tilted her head, wondering what was being said. "Oh, Joe, is that you, Joe?" Then, a man appeared. "Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson. Hey, you're Steve, right? Long time no see." It's been a while." It was Mr. Anderson, our 9th grade teacher. Yes, I'm glad to see both of you. Especially you, Joe. I heard you went to France from your letters, so I was actually worried whether you'd make it today." "France?" Steve tilted his head at Mr. Anderson's words. "Yeah, I didn't go to a high school in the US, but right after that I moved to France and attended high school there." "What?" "I continued with college there too, and now I work while traveling between America and France." "What does that mean?" "My mother remarried right after I graduated from middle school. He was my brother Mike's primary physician and a renowned cardiologist. Mike had a weak heart, so with the help of my stepfather, we went to France for his surgery. My mother and I followed along, and we started living there. There, I attended high school and later enrolled in a prestigious university. During my university years, I started a company that eventually took off, and now it has grown into a considerable business with over 100 employees." "What? Starting a business? As a student? Aren't you aware? In universities there, It's quite common for students to start businesses. I met my girlfriend there, and we started the business together. I handed Steve my business card. The company name written on it was a publicly listed one, something Steve, as a stockbroker, couldn't possibly be unaware of. Moreover, it had recently become a popular stock due to its strong performance. No way. Recognizing the company, he was at a loss for words. Indeed, I didn't attend a high school in America, but in the business world, that doesn't matter. Nobody cares about your educational background. Whether you're a middle school dropout, a high school graduate, or a college graduate, a president is a president. You're judged by your work. Steve stood there, unable to say anything, his head bowed. Why? Why are you always ahead of me? Steve muttered this weakly. I've always resented you since middle school. I was raised in a single-parent home too, without a father, but unlike your family, my mother was the kind who changed boyfriends every few months. There were always strangers staying at our house, and I felt like I had no place there. I spent nights out, trying not to go home. So, I was envious of you, even though your brother was sick. Your family was supportive and close. Steve, you always had better grades and were the class representative, trusted by teachers. In contrast, I was just spinning my wheels, trying not to let anyone find out about my home life, and ended up being labeled as frivolous. I've been scared since then, always fearing betrayal. Mocking you was my way of venting my frustration. Grades are something I worked for, and being class representative was just because no one else volunteered. Living honestly earns trust, and my being mocked isn't a good excuse for your insecurity. Yeah, I know. When you got angry at me for the first time, after I mocked you for not going to high school, I finally understood. I have done something irreversible, but by then, it was too late to apologize. I planned to apologize if you came today, but seeing you so happy made me realize how pointless my life has been, and it just made me angry. All I could do was hold my head in my hands. While there might be some room for sympathy regarding Steve's family situation, everything else was honestly just a result of his own actions. I had genuinely suffered and been hurt by his behavior for a long time. Steve said he envied me, but I felt the same about him. He was always the center of attention in the class, surrounded by friends. Constantly in the midst of laughter and smiles, I often envied that. In contrast, while I did feel my mother's love, I also experienced more loneliness than most, and being naturally bad at socializing, I was labeled as serious. I never wanted to be class representative. It was Steve who labeled me as an introvert and pushed that onto me. When I conveyed this, he looked at me in surprise. I was never really the serious type by nature. I was just a kid who suppressed my own feelings to distract from the loneliness. That's why I always envied you, Steve, being bright and the center of attention. Why? Why didn't you ever say anything? Why would I? You never said anything to me either. That's true, but I had no idea you felt that way. You always looked expressionless. Just because I don't show it on my face doesn't mean I didn't feel anything inside. I have happy moments and unpleasant ones too. It's normal. Jer, I guess so. I thought you always looked okay, so I justified to myself that it was fine to do or say anything to you. I'm really sorry. I was wrong. I'm the one who should apologize for always ignoring you and not verbally expressing my discomfort. I should have made my feelings clearer. I'm sorry too. After 15 years, we both looked down, offering mutual apologies. Then, Mr. Anderson stood in front of us. Both of you have grown up so much compared to those days. Steve, it's commendable that you realized your mistakes on your own. Admitting you were wrong is often hard, but that doesn't change the fact that you hurt Joe. That's something you should deeply reflect on. Yes. Joe, too. That day you showed your emotions, instead of just observing things from afar. I was really happy. It's wonderful that even now, amidst these unresolved feelings, you can acknowledge your faults. Yes. In life, there are many people we may not get along with, In fact, most might be like that. Yet, in living, we sometimes have to understand each other. For me, both Steve and Joe are precious students. Not just you two, but all students I've been involved with. Their happiness is my happiness. You two have resolved a burden in your hearts today. That makes me very happy too. You both are thoughtful and outstanding students. I'm proud of you. Feeling almost too flattered, I couldn't help but laugh. Steve seemed to feel the same way, and Ellie watched us with a warm smile. Joe, over here. Steve, sorry to keep you waiting. No, I just got here too. Is takeout okay? Yeah, thanks. Since that reunion, Steve and I somehow started keeping in touch. At first, there was awkwardness, and our conversations hardly lasted. But now, we can talk like normal friends and even go out for drinks. We often share stories about our past. He told me about how he became independent after high school, earned scholarships for college, and landed a job at a major securities firm. It must have been tough getting into a big securities firm. Yes, it was. I did a lot of preparation and spent days stressing over entry sheets. That's amazing. I admire his effort, but Steve laughs it off, saying, "No, compared to you, I'm just a minnow. You struggled in a foreign country, right? Your determination and resolve to start a business while still a student is way more impressive than anything I've done." We started inviting each other out more often, and now we meet about once a week. Because of this, we've talked about things we never could have imagined discussing in middle school. One such topic is what you'd call romance talk. What? A proposal? Yeah, I've been with Ellie for years now, but our business partnership has lasted even longer. Plus, she's French, so I thought maybe something more romantic would be appropriate. I overthought it and couldn't make a move, but with the business on track, I didn't want to keep her waiting any longer. I can't believe she chose you. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Just kidding, sorry. I confided in Steve about wanting to propose to Ellie. He listened seriously, despite his jokes, and helped me research things like restaurants with a night view and the meaning behind the number of roses in a bouquet. When my proposal was successful and we decided to get married, Steve cried and rejoiced as if it was his own happiness, saying, "Congratulations, I'm so happy for you." Since then, Steve has stopped making snide remarks. He's reevaluated his behavior and character in both work and personal life, softening his demeanor and apparently becoming quite popular. However, he's confessed that his mother's behavior left a deep trauma, making it hard for him to trust women. Marriage seems like a distant dream for me, but hey, I'm totally content with my life as it is now. Steve spoke carefreely, and it was refreshing to see. I don't believe marriage is everything, but I do hope his emotional wounds heal even a little. Soon after, I married Ellie. Among the guests were, of course, Mr. Anderson and Steve. Congratulations, be happy. Thanks. Let's catch up for a drink once things settle down. I'll get in touch. Sure, I'll contact you too. Mr. Anderson watched us laugh together with a pleased look. Back in middle school, I never imagined understanding Steve to this extent. Maybe, even in the deepest conflicts, people can understand each other if they open up. Ellie and I, from different countries and backgrounds, have become a family. Steve, whom I once detested, is now a close friend. Not making assumptions and continuing dialogue is vital, both in work and personal life. I plan to live by this lesson moving forward.